Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt unfamiliar to yourself? Not ugly, not broken, just unfamiliar. As if the woman looking back at you is someone you know, but not someone you fully recognize anymore. Maybe your body has changed. Maybe your emotions have changed. Maybe your energy has changed. Maybe your patience has changed. Maybe your cycle has changed. Maybe motherhood changed you. Maybe stress changed you. Maybe life changed you. And somewhere in the middle of trying to keep everything together, you quietly began wondering, what is happening to me? If that question has ever lived in your chest, this conversation is for you. Because many overwhelmed women are not only carrying responsibilities, they are carrying confusion. Confusion about their bodies, confusion about their emotions, confusion about their identity, confusion about why they no longer feel like the version of themselves they remember. And I want to begin with something I hope you hear deeply. You are not too much, not too emotional, not too sensitive, not too needy, not too complicated, not too difficult, not too broken to understand. Many women have spent years apologizing for being human, apologizing for tears, apologizing for exhaustion, apologizing for needing space, apologizing for changing, apologizing for not being endlessly available, apologizing for not being able to carry everything without feeling the weight of it. But real life has a way of revealing that even strong women have limits. And limits are not failure. They are part of being human. Now, when women begin experiencing mood shifts, emotional overwhelm, body changes, or cycle changes, the first thing many people say is, it's your hormones. Sometimes hormones may be part of the picture, but I think we often oversimplify women's experiences. Because a woman may be carrying hormonal changes, sleep deprivation, mental load, relationship stress, work pressure, financial pressure, caregiving responsibilities, body image struggles, and unprocessed emotions at the same time. Imagine trying to identify one voice in a room where 10 people are speaking at once. That is how many women feel. Not because they are dramatic, because their inner world has become crowded. And what makes this particularly hard is that the crowd is often invisible. People may see the functioning. They may see the work getting done. They may see the children cared for. They may see the meals prepared. They may see the deadlines met. They may see the smile, but they do not see the emotional traffic happening underneath. Let's talk about mood shifts. Have you ever had a day when a small thing felt surprisingly heavy? A message, a tone of voice, a delay, a child crying, a sink full of dishes, a forgotten task, and suddenly you felt irritated, tearful, overwhelmed, or emotionally flooded. Then almost immediately, another feeling appeared. Guilt. Why am I reacting like this? I want to gently remove some shame here. Emotional intensity is not always emotional immaturity. Sometimes it is emotional depletion. There's a difference. When your emotional reserves are full, you can absorb more. When your reserves are low, even small demands can feel loud. Think about your phone battery. At 95%, several apps can run without a problem. At 5%, a simple notification feels intrusive. The notification did not become larger. The available energy became smaller. Many women judge themselves for the notification when the real issue is the battery. And emotional batteries are affected by many things. Rest, stress, connection, nourishment, pain, loneliness, mental load, hormonal shifts, life transitions. This is why I believe one of the most compassionate questions a woman can ask herself is not, what is wrong with me? but what has been draining me lately? That question opens a different door. Now, let's talk about cycles. Not in a magical social media way. Not in a you should feel empowered on these days and productive on those days kind of way. Real life is really that neat. Some women have regular cycles. Some have irregular cycles. Some are postpartum. Some are breastfeeding. Some are approaching perimenopause. Some are under significant stress. Some are using hormonal contraception. Some are living with medical conditions that affect their cycles. So, I do not want to give you a template. I want to give you permission to become a gentle observer of your own patterns. Notice when you tend to feel more energetic. Notice when you tend to need more rest. Notice when you feel more inward. Notice when boundaries become especially important. Notice when your body seems to ask for more support rather than more pressure. This is not about controlling your body perfectly. It is about listening to it more honestly. And I think many women have been taught to relate to their bodies through judgment instead of relationship. Too big, too soft, too tired, too emotional, too inconsistent, too much. But understanding usually creates better change than self-attack. Your body deserves understanding, not punishment. Now, I want to speak to the woman navigating postpartum identity. Whether your baby is 6 weeks old, 6 months old, or 2 years old. Because postpartum is not only a physical event, it is often an identity event. A woman may be recovering physically while also grieving freedom, loving her baby while missing her old routines, feeling grateful while feeling exhausted, feeling connected and disconnected at the same time. And many women are surprised by the complexity of those emotions. They think, if I love my child, why do I feel lost? Because love does not erase transition. Motherhood can add meaning and still require mourning. You may mourn uninterrupted sleep, uninterrupted thoughts, spontaneity, your previous body, your previous schedule, your previous sense of self. And grieving those things does not make you a bad mother. It makes you a human being experiencing change. I think one of the cruelest expectations placed on women is the expectation to transform completely and then pretend the transformation cost nothing. But every major life transition has a cost. And healing is not only about recovering physically. It is also about asking, who am I becoming now? Not how do I get my old self back? That is a gentler question and often a wiser one. Let's talk about stress, because sometimes women say, my hormones are all over the place, when what they are really experiencing is chronic overload. I am speaking generally here, not diagnosing anyone. But many women live in a state of continuous demand, always responding, always planning, always anticipating, always remembering, always carrying, always being needed. And the body does not experience responsibility as a motivational quote. It experiences it as load. What is fascinating is that many overwhelmed women are not failing because they forgot a wellness tip. They are struggling because their lives contain too little margin, too little space between demands, too little recovering between responsibilities, too little support beneath the weight they carry. Sometimes the most important wellness question is not, what else should I add? But what can stop requiring so much from me? That is a deeper conversation, and sometimes a harder one. Now, let's talk about body confusion. A woman looks at herself and thinks, I don't recognize this body. Maybe the scale changed. Maybe the shape changed. Maybe the skin changed. Maybe the clothes fit differently. Maybe she simply feels disconnected from her body rather than at home in it. And because we live in a culture that constantly tells women to fix, shrink, tighten, reverse, and improve, many women begin treating their bodies like problems to solve. But what if the first step is not fixing? What if the first step is ending the war? Feeding yourself regularly, drinking water, resting when possible, moving in ways that do not feel like punishment, wearing clothes that fit the body you have today, speaking to yourself with basic respect. That may sound simple, but for many women, it is deeply radical because they have spent years believing that kindness must be earned. And I want to say this clearly. You do not have to hate your body in order to care for it. Now, let's talk about the mental load. This is one of the least visible forms of exhaustion. Remembering appointments, planning meals, monitoring children, anticipating needs, checking supplies, managing emotions, coordinating schedules, following up, reminding, thinking ahead. Many women are not only doing tasks, they are carrying the responsibility of making life continue smoothly for everyone around them. And because much of this work is invincible, they often feel guilty for being tired. They think, but I didn't do anything extraordinary. Meanwhile, their mind has been working for 16 hours. Rest is not only about sitting down. Rest is also about being temporarily released from vigilance. And many women are rarely released from vigilance. Even when they are lying down, they are planning. Even when they are eating, they are remembering. Even when they are resting, they are anticipating. That is not a moral failure. That is a nervous system carrying ongoing responsibility. Now, I want to speak to the woman who cries more easily than she used to. Please hear me carefully. Crying is not always evidence that you are falling apart. Sometimes it is evidence that you have been holding too much together. Tears can come from sadness, but they can also come from relief. Exhaustion, loneliness, hormonal shifts, stress, feeling unseen, feeling unsupported, feeling overwhelmed, feeling emotionally full. Many strong women do not stop feeling. They simply delay feeling. And delayed emotions often return with greater intensity. I think many women have learned how to function before they learned how to process. They know how to continue, how to perform, how to care for others, how to stay responsible. But they were never taught how to release emotional accumulation. So the emotions gather quietly, not because they are weak, because they are human. Now let's go deeper. So women are exhausted not only by what they do, but by who they believe they must be. The strong one, the reliable one, the patient one, the understanding one, the selfless one, the capable one, the one who can handle it. At first, these identities may feel admirable, but eventually they can become heavy. Because when carrying becomes identity, putting things down feels frightening. Some women do not know how tired they are because they have forgotten what support feels like. They are accustomed to being support. And there is a difference. A person can be deeply loved and still feel unsupported. A person can be highly capable and deeply exhausted. A person can be strong and overwhelmed at the same time. These realities can coexist. Now, I want to say something that I think many women need to hear. You do not need to end rest by reaching complete exhaustion. You do not need to collapse before you deserve support. You do not need to prove that you are struggling enough. Support is not a reward for breaking. It is one of the things that helps prevent breaking. And if you have been carrying everything alone, I want you to consider this gently. What would it look like to stop being the only person holding your life together? Not abandoning responsibility, but allowing responsibility to be shared where possible. Now, before we finish, I want to bring us back to the beginning. You are not too much, not too emotional, not too sensitive, not too complicated, not too broken. You are a woman living in a real body, carrying a real life with real responsibilities, real emotions, and real limits. And perhaps the goal is not to become less human. Perhaps the goal is to become more supported, more understood, more honest, more aligned. Wholeness is not perfection, it is alignment. Alignment means listening instead of fighting, understanding instead of shaming, adjusting instead of abandoning yourself, building rhythms that can survive real life, returning gently when life interrupts you, and choosing care over punishment. So tonight or tomorrow morning or whenever you find a quiet moment, I want to leave you with a different question. Not what is wrong with me. Ask this instead. What has my body, my emotions, and my life be trying to tell me? Do not rush the answer. Sit with it. Because sometimes the confusion is not asking for more criticism. It is asking for more attention. Sometimes the overwhelm is not proof that you are failing. It is feedback that something needs support. And sometimes the woman you have been missing is not completely gone. She is simply buried beneath stress, responsibility, exhaustion, and noise. Be gentle with her. She has been carrying more than most people can see. And if this conversation helped you feel a little less alone, a little less ashamed, or a little more understood, continue the conversation in the comments. What is one thing your body or emotions have been trying to tell you lately? Thank you for spending this time with me on Honest Wave by Eseosa Wellness. Natural wellness, deeper clarity, grounded growth. And remember this, you are not too much. You are a human being carrying a real life. And that deserves understanding, not punishment.